1, 2, 3, okay. Yeah, ladies, welcome. Great success on the New York Film Festival for the movies. So I hope this evening will be here in Cultural Institute. Very interesting. We had a talk, and I told both Rosi and Sossai that they don't need a moderator because they are in a very good mood. So I will be very short. Thank you, Grazie, that without her this evening won't happen. And of course, Legal Center and the New York Film Festival. And my dear friend, Sally Fisher, will help us to have this evening, and we're spending decades to promote Italian movies in New York. So I'm very pleased to have here Francesco Sossai and Gianfranco Rosi. They movie, I don't know, how many of you have seen their movie? No, not bad, not bad. Of course, there will be space for question and answering, but I will Gianfranco Rosi. How do you feel? First, it's for how the film came to life. Because, you know, I don't think that you at the beginning had a clear idea about the story that gathered along the tragedy. So can you explain us?
So I will tell you also something I didn't say in the podcast. So it's important. I appreciate our talk. So you know, Naples is such a difficult place to think about, especially if you're not from Naples, to think that you can make a film there. You know, each of us probably went to Naples and had an experience there, but I never thought I could make a film there, since my friend Pietro Marcello was here with the film Buse, and we are great friends. We know each other since many years. And Pietro, one day he told me, I think, you know, I would love to make a film around the area of the Vesuvio, the part of that side of Naples that is not so much being told. And but I don't have any more that stamina and that patience to spend so long as much as we do make a film. So it opened up a door to me, and I got an invitation from a Napolitan to try to explore that reality and eventually to make a film. So that with all my films, somehow they came of other people's suggestions. Did the film because I wanted to do a film. It was even my first film, Goldman, and someone told me, I saw your film you did in Miami, it looks like Benares, why don't you make a film in Benares? Benares is in India, so far away. And then one day I went to Benares, Goldman, and so on. That's always suggesting a lot of imagination. So in the case, a Napolitan invited me, okay, that I could make maybe a film there. And for me, Naples was like any other story I told. Like, it was a place I didn't know. It was a place that, in order to be able to confront and to tell a story, I had to immerse myself there. And only time, as I told you before, it's the only time is my complice,
Partner of crime.
Complice, l'amore, complice. And so that's because Naples was like India, was a place that was like in Mexico, like with Sicily, Lampedusa, a place I've never been, Notturno, where I spent 5 years in Iraq, Syria. There are places that are part of an imaginary, and then you confront yourself with reality. And you try, as we said before, to transform that reality in something that is a universal language.
Thank you so much. So I forgot to get the title of your movie, which is quite beautiful in Italian, giusto? Yeah.
Sotto le nuvole.
Sotto le nuvole. From Naples, we move to Venice, to Veneto, le città di pianura. Francesco Sossai, how the way that you operate in a certain way is very different from Rosi. You told me that you spend a lot of time on the script, starting shooting. Instead, Rosi spent a lot of time on the field, shooting, and at the end, making the movie. So, can you explain us how the idea of this movie come up on your mind? For the people that have not seen it, it's basically very synthetic and intergeneration trip from two 50s guys, disillusion, and a young, very, would say, very unknowledgeable about art history guy. So you don't think that these three guys could become friends. Instead, they became friends. So tell us about the idea and the movie and how do you your style of work so different from.
I write for a very long time, and this time what I did was sort of what also Gianfranco does: immerse myself in my region. Gianfranco always goes to other places, and I try to. I don't know. I'm condemned to always do the same place, I feel. But I would go in bars and take trains and go around and write down everything that I could see, and most of all, what I could hear from other people. Like trying to really get a grasp on the language. Because there is something about Venetian culture, which is similar to Napolitan culture, I think, that everything is theatrical. Everything is looks like a theater, like a play. And especially in Venetian bars, I don't know if you know, between each other, not talking between each other, they have a voice than normal, because they want everyone to listen to them.
It's what I call the human comedy.
Yeah, it's a human comedy. That's why also on a theater level, for history of theater, Venice people are like bound. So I wrote a lot, and at the end of this, I had all sorts of scenes, and with my co-writer we drove a map, and we started to place every scene on different places, on different landscape, and so that's how we composed the story. But in a very, we felt very free, so we didn't have a structure, or we didn't have a place, and we didn't have an idea about how it would end or how it would go, but we wanted really to create this feeling of journey. And for me, the main goal of the film is that we all know the classical touristic image is my region, which is Venice and the Dolomites. So, and what I wanted to do, I wanted to do a counter image of this. So to give the people that live there and people also that don't live there another image of this place, because I felt trapped in that image, in that touristic image, and my brain started to be infected by that image, and I was scared that also other people get infected by this image and they come to think they live inside that image, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to see themselves and their landscape in another way. And so that's why I started to write and how I did.
Here I think there is actually that you can feel when you see the two movies, because born in such a different way. I think the idea, at least as viewer, I caught, is that there is a essential you can understand the essential only if you go below the level of a touristic eyes or the stereotypes that you have about the city. This is true for Venice and for Naples as well. Even the Vesuvio, you took the pictures from the opposite side. Somebody said, "Oh, this is not the Vesuvio. Instead, it's the Vesuvio." Can you explain why you did that? What is the idea?
I shot literally to the other side. Naples is a huge gulf, and there are two volcanoes, Campi Flegrei and the Vesuvio. It's like I like always to write. So basically, this Campi Flegrei, this is the Vesuvio, and this is the Gulf of Naples. So I shot in between these two places, and only one story I shot in Naples itself. The Vesuvio here has a different perspective from Naples than from here. So in my poster, I have a picture of the side. So I used to have the picture of Naples on this side, on the other side, because the specular side. So for me, it was a kind of provocation to have that in the film, in the poster, to have a Vesuvio which is never seen in a postcard, because from the other side, it's a specular image. So somehow the whole film reflects that element of specularity. And that element, we were talking before, of the, for me it's fundamental, like in his film, there is that very strong idea of the off-screen. Off-screen, to be technical, is a very technical term in cinema, and it's something you don't see. It's not in the frame, it's not in the image you're filming, but something that is outside the image. And for me, Naples is like a huge Poricampo. It's a huge off-screen. So you have always to be, Naples suggests always something that you don't immediately see, but is there. It's in 3,000 years of history. In this element between the present and this thin line of separation, which belongs to the memory. And this thin line of separation that goes from the present, the past, and the hypothetical future before. If we still don't know, and that maybe it creates this sense of suspension, in a way this sense of fear. I think in both things, a universal feeling. Now we live in a world where fear is part of us. Because in my film, someone says, between the war and the tremors, we don't know anymore how to live. So, but that fear that in my film comes out from people calling it's been an earthquake, and everybody has the doubt. Here we have the war, we have the economy, we have the social separation. We have so many elements of that builds, unfortunately, a moment where transversal feeling is a universal feeling of fear and of instability, and of a sense of intangibility about the future, which is a suspended future, which is in his field is very, very strong, this element. So what I wanted to talk about is called Giri. And Giri, for him, important what is outside than what the frame contains and what the picture contains. And I think a great photographer, a great picture, has to have that sense of the off-screen. So that picture that we see, it contains also what we don't. And this is the for a director, for a screenwriter, for an artist, to always show in what we see elements that they don't really belong, although you don't see immediately. And Naples itself, for his nature, like your territory, it has that so strongly, that element of the off-screen, of something that for example, something we don't see but is there. And it's there contained, and you have to be able to dig it in and to go and to have this sense of certification of time.
Yeah, one thing that is special about your film, Francesco, is that your camera never judge. I mean, we have two kinds. Three characters very different, no? Two 50-year-old that with the past of not really you know, with some illegal activities, and a perfect guide, the son that every parent would love to have. But you never judge, neither one or the others. That's really what you would like to convey with your movie.
Yes, I can link to what Gianfranco said about Ghirli, that for me a huge inspiration for the film was Gianni Cerati, who's this great Italian writer that worked with Olivo Barbieri.
There's a book that
Journey to Italy. And what he says is that what it teaches is how to learn how to walk and to accept every element of the landscape and not to judge them, not to say, that abandoned factory is ugly and San Mark Square is beautiful, because this everyone can do, you know? So it's very easy, I think, it's very easy to film beautiful things, it's very easy to film ugly things, but it's very difficult to train yourself not to judge them and to find a way to shoot everything in the same way and to have the right distance to what you're with your camera to what you're shooting. And that's why I had to come to a point to find a technique at some point for the Brion monument, which is this huge tomb made by Carlo Scarpa. For me, it's so difficult there that I had to find a Japanese cinema technique invented by Rosi, tatami shot, that basically you have to put the camera at the height of yourself sitting on a tatami, and you're not allowed to see the lens. So at that point the camera is like a fixed object and you have to move it inside the space to find the right distance to what you want to portray.
Which is Ozu, what
Which is
Ozu
Ozu, exactly.
on this movie.
And I had to come to that point. The monument and Carlo Scarpa is so beautiful that I had the risk to set it up, and I didn't want that. I had to stop myself with the technique, let's say, to be more rigorous when coming in that place.
Thinking about this part of the movie, Giulio was disappointed at first sight about Scarpa monument. Said, it's better on the draw than on the reality.
No, he says the opposite, actually. He says that you can imagine then he says, I always saw it on the plans and I studied it, but it's much more beautiful in the reality.
Okay.
And for me, it was like the film always plays with this expectation. They expect a taste and they get another taste. They remember something as being beautiful, and when they encounter it again, it's not interesting anymore for them. And I wanted just to say that maybe sometimes really to open up an idea of a future, as Gianfranco was saying, you really have to immerse yourself in what you encounter and see what comes out of it.
The surprise aspect. Yeah. Even the screen play a role on you very much, no? The different taste of an ice cream, the surprise that was not lemon at a certain point, was maybe yogurt. So this surprise aspect of the life is very much on your way to shoot your movie, Gianfranco, because you basically spent 3 years. By the way, we did a small test on Instagram. We invite our internauts to guess how long we've been there. And actually 60% were right, 3 years, so maybe they found out on internet, but that's anyway interesting. So you spent 3 years there looking for stories, because you told me before that if you wait a documentary filmmaker, the rule is wait and the right story will arrive. How you can be so certain that you are not wasting your time?
Because I'm a believer. I told you, I believe in the God of documentaries, which is, I'm joking of course, but the protection, God is there.
Because as a journalist, the mood documentary, I'm always afraid not to find the right story in the right moment. But
I love to be in places where I don't know anything about. I don't like to do any research. I don't like to ask questions. My teacher used to tell me, you ask 10 questions, you have 10 answers. You ask 100 questions, you have 100 answers. It's not interesting. You have to dig into the intimacy of the thing in order to find this eternal answer, which is huge, which is life. Which is life, is the essence of life. You know, and that's what we are looking for always. You know, I never ask questions to my story. When they say, I don't do interview, I don't ask questions, and I wait that it develops. Sometimes with like con una voce pensiero, like you know, when you're alone in a room, you find interior voice. You know, when I deal with one person alone in the room. I like the only thing I suggest is like if you were alone here, sometimes you talk to yourself. So yes, I always do that. And this is the kind of intimacy I want to have. So your thoughts you can pronounce to yourself, and that's your idea. That's what I relate to la voce pensiero, to your internal voice that you can share it with me or eventually with an audience. So when Maria is there taking notes and talking to herself or to us, I like to reach that intimacy, that truth, you know, that is there. It's not an interview, there's no answer, there's no question, I don't want to find an answer, I don't want to read my work. Actually, I like to play, as I said before, with some time. I want to say as less as possible. For me, it's very important not to give answer, not to give statement in my work. You know, I want to suggest few things, and then each of the person. I love it if there's 500 people, 100 people. In Venice, there were 1,300 people watching that film, and I would like to have 100, 300, 1,300 different perspectives of the film. So each of them, they develop the film based on their own experience. That's what I love. I don't want the film to be a statement on something. I like to suggest certain element. I like each of the audience to be able to take something and transform it from their own experience, from their own culture, from their own past, from their own who they are, to grab something and retransform. A friend of mine, my teacher again, used to tell me culture is something that is there when you forget everything. You forget everything it came from, and you transform it in your own way. You know, and that's what culture is. It's not like repeating something because you read, but you forget where you grab that element and becomes you transform it and becomes your own idea, your own things. And that's what I would love to reach in my work. You know, to have each of the person that is watching that to be able to make his own. My producer Arte producer in France, he said, Gianfranco, after 20 years of watching the film, I completely forgot that I was in Naples, and this became my own world. I was able to transform what I see in my own experience, through experience and through my own thinking, and went somewhere else with that. And that's for me what is important.
I think this is very much something that resonates on your movie, Francesco, because there are one scene at the beginning, at the end, that look like similar, I would say. A certain point, the two 50s guys say that they caught something very important about life, but both they forgot it. And all the movie, this thing that they got come up, but what was, I don't remember. At the end, suddenly said, now I got it, what was. But in the movie, there is a metaphor to explain what you have done with your camera on the particularly I think is very good.
Yes, so basically, I wanted to put myself in this position of not judging. I also want not giving any judge. I don't want to put myself as not pretending something superior position, like putting myself above the audience. I don't stand this anymore they make it to me. I want to look at the people like right in the eyes. And for me, this is an important way of the communication of cinema, like to look each other in the eyes and not being, I am the director telling you a secret about life or the truth about life, because I don't want this now. I don't know. It creates, in me, creates a reaction that I suddenly become super defensive and maybe also aggressive when someone tries to tell me that. And so in my films, when someone, for instance, at the beginning, the owner of the factory where they work, he wants to say something very important, but you have the helicopter sound that takes away his word, and you're never gonna hear. It's the same with this secret they had lost, because they look for a superior meaning to their life, but they have it there. They don't need superior philosophical idea that supports life, but it is what it is. So at the beginning they try to remember it and verbalize it, and at the end they realize they cannot verbalize it, and it's just a fading feeling that they have about life. So there's not, the secret is that there is no secret, I think. So that's
very interesting.
No, very. Yeah, we did.
Gianfranco, for me, the honor.
Because the only one that can say this
No.
is
Because
that you are with me.
for me, there's no difference between documentary fiction. Of course, I work with reality, I work with real people, I don't write a script, I don't write a dialogue, I don't, but then there is a way of working, it's a cinema for me. For me, what is important is the difference between true and false. And this is exactly for art, for poetry, for journalism, for everything. This for me what is important. It's not between fiction and the non-fiction. Francesco is a fictional word. Usually I get extremely bored with, for me, cinema is that people stop experimenting with cinema. And the moment you stop experimenting with that language, that element is dead. And cinema is going towards death. I say that in a metaphorical way. in my, well, unfortunately it is. Because there is no more storytelling, there is no more experimenting in the language. Very few filmmakers are doing that. 80% of films you see, they're using a language which is dead for me. And unfortunately, in Italian cinema, what's going on that. And he's the only film I saw that is bringing again the experimenting, finding new language in fiction, in cinema. It's the only film I saw in years that had that element. And so this film, I said, it's still possible to experiment also in cinema. For me, documentary is fundamental. When people say, well, why don't you work in feature film? Because I see in documentary you still can experiment. Every film I do, there is still length of finding new language for that, to find a way of experimenting and find a new language of how to tell that story. And we are becoming lazy, sitting with very standardized element, which is everywhere. Like American cinema became like a intrusion onto the world cinema, and we lost the idea of finding our own language and our own way of experimenting. If we not experiment, that media died.
Did you got a good compliment here? You react.
I blush. What Gianfranco did, okay, now I want to be very truthful about this.
Met you.
Sacro Gra, I was at the right age to be very much impressed by it. And what I think that Gianfranco does, and I hope can do also, I also don't care about the difference between fiction, documentary. For me, it's just a way that it's used to put every film on a shelf, so that they can look it from outside, you know, but I don't care. For me, language. Everyone does in a different way, but it's see the difference between the researchers or my journey to Lithuania. I don't know the difference. And what we look after, I think, I heard this definition once, the mysterious object of authenticity. And I think that's exactly what we struggle for when we do a film. And many different languages, true of course, many thematic, but
It was a scandal.
Yeah.
Documentarian is representing Italian cinema. And that is the person that said that is the one who said it went into a very strong. And the fact that he was making between fake as well, and was not his father. They say that the mentor told people you are different document like people's music, so the document is not cinema, not cinema. So it was I don't care about the scandal I feel was proposed. I'm glad you got this about the document representing Italian cinema. Strange element that goes around the world to men. Representing Italian cinema is not part of the industry of the film, it doesn't work through, it was always because people are still making separation. They think that they are realtor because they are working because he said, how would you
Always the same guy.
I'm glad that he gets it. When you just because you want to make real movies, it's like document is not cinema. So when you create it, it's very detrimental to keep. You know, that's what I see in these movies that work. There are very few people that have the courage to spend 6 years to write to make a movie.
Actually, in this movie, you made a radical choice, technical, but of course it's substantial. You shot the movie in black and white. Means that you couldn't come back because it's possible, of course, to shoot the movie in normal way and after with post-production to change it. So what it seems is not.
Because of course, I think 80% of people that they shoot now with digital, and very few people shoot directly in black and white. Also because there are very few cameras that they shoot in black and white. And usually people feel more comfortable to say, I'm going to do that in post-production. But for me, the black and white was a narrative choice, was not an aesthetics choice. When you look at things and you know that you're filming in black and white, you have to look at things differently. Because the storytelling is different, the frame is different, the relationship creating the images is different. I was telling before on the podcast that yes, black and white for things in different, force you also to interpret it. You focus only on certain element of the, and in a way I want also to radically take off the idea of the stereotype, the colors, the light, the things. So black and white was helping me, but most of it, as I said before, I'm sorry I'm repeating, that's an answer that I have, is that I want to create the archival, because in my field there's a lot of playing of this element of archival, of archaeological, of the past, of the element of the present become past, that become, as we said before, a possible future, futuro anteriore. How do you say in English, futuro anteriore? How do you say in English, futuro anteriore?
Near future.
No. There is a verb.
Maybe near.
Futuro anteriore. Can someone look in the Google?
Chat GPT.
Future perfect.
Eh?
Future perfect.
It's a philosophical concept. It's not. We don't use it anymore in our language. Futuro anteriore. lo usiamo più nella lingua. Quindi per me è un elemento veramente strutturale di pensiero narrativo questo qui. Il bianco e nero, nel momento in cui io giro, quel presente diventa già legato al passato, diventa archivio. Io nel film gioco con l'archivio, ma non lo uso come contrappunto, ma diventa il cinema, questo cinema morto lì perché è stato abbandonato fisicamente, un cinema distrutto, senza gli schermi. E quando ho trovato questo cinema ho pensato che tutto l'archivio che avevo in mente di usare nel film dovesse venire dalla memoria di questo schermo ormai inutilizzato, che però ancora aveva dentro di sé il passato ed era in grado di portarlo, no, alla luce. Quindi era un po' una contrapposizione, no, di quello che il cinema proietta, invece in questo caso è la memoria che ci proietta. E quindi quando il film, quel bianco e nero, quel presente diventa subito archivio, diventa passato, diventa qualcosa che non ci appartiene più.
Wait, before giving
Sorry, senti in Italia?
no, most of people here can understand Italian, absolutely. But I have a question before giving the mic to the people here, and because it's not just a great movie, a great director of this movie, Francesco, but I was really fascinated by the three actors, the three main characters. So how do you build the relation with these three characters, different age, they have to play very different roles, and you feel that they became really friends, maybe not only on the screen.
Yes, so what I do with actors, for me, I don't do casting. Me and my co-writer, we also look for the actors. We don't have a casting director, we don't want it because we know the voice. But we write, and our rule is to write without thinking about an actor. Because I have the feeling that when you write, think about an actor, you can only write what you know that he already can do, or she already can do. And you cannot create something new with that person. And so we write without thinking about actors, and then I follow this sentence I read once in the wonderful book by Bresson, the Note sul cinematografo, that it says, I'm not interested in what they want to show to me, but I'm interested to see what they don't know they have within themselves. And so that's how I work with them. Like, I approach them as if moved by, how do you say that, colpo di fulmine? When you're...
English.
Lightning strikes.
Yeah.
Love at first sight.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Love at first sight.
Yeah, so for me it works like this. I fall in love with actors completely, and I have to be madly in love with them to film them. It doesn't, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah, like for me, I fall in love with the people I meet.
The story is
Exactly.
The
funny.
story that you find, the
Yeah.
procuratore, Maria,
Yeah.
that moment I already said it, that pass you turn and it's gone, but it's here.
Yeah.
It's here, and you have to hold it, and it's there. If you don't have that, there's no way you can put the camera.
And what I would do after that, when they approach them, I slowly try to understand what they need from me, in order to be able to extract that thing that they don't know they have within themselves. So my whole work is to adapt myself with each one of them in order to allow them to go to this path of discovering something within them. What I do is I do a lot of rehearsal, but I mean I call it rehearsal for the production, but we never rehearse the scene of the film. No, it's not. I'm not. Never,
Wow.
never.
The first is good.
No, it's not the first.
Yeah.
It's good. Like then on set I rehearse and I shoot
okay.
multiple times. But before going on set, I spend 1.5 months with the actors in a room or in a town, and we stay together, and we do a lot of things in order to find a common language that then we can use on set to work together and to create relationship. For instance, in this film, it was very important that you believe they're friends for like 40 years.
Yeah.
Because if you don't believe that, the film doesn't work. And so I had to create a friendship between them, and it was very interesting because I was scared about this. Because for me it was, okay, if you don't believe this, the film, it's nothing. And so but I work in this way, I try to listen to them, and also when I do this month of rehearsing, I can fulfill this fantasy I have of being invisible in the room. That I would love like to watch all of you and you don't see me. I don't know. It's what I want, what I would love the most in my life. And so when I'm there, I can stay 3-4 hours with two people looking themselves in the eyes without talking, and I disappear and I can just observe them, and I very like this feeling. So that's how I try to work with them. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Posso dire una cosa? Proprio- È una piccola provocazione.
Yeah.
Qui in questa stanza noi stiamo contribuendo alla morte del cinema.
Why?
Guarda l'inquadratura. Guarda l'inquadratura verticale. Quindi
No, non si gira il telefono, non è che abbiamo provato.
Gli occhi sono orizzontali.
però, no, ma perché ormai tutti filmiamo in verticale, no? E questo vuol dire ormai uccidere lo quello che si parlava prima dell'off screen.
Instagram stories.
Però io stavo facendo una masterclass a studenti di cinema, mi capita spesso una cosa che amo fare di più, lavorare con i giovani, è l'unica possibilità che abbiamo di sorry again in Italian. I was doing a masterclass with film students, and everybody was filming with the vertical things. And I said, why do you use the phone vertical? And they did all the film they did was vertical. I said, you kill. So I shoot my film with 15mm lens. 90% is 50, because 15mm is my eyes. I see all this. Why we have to cut out the other space of reality becomes like selfie. So it's what we said before, that it's important what is outside the screen to come in. We kill immediately the possibility even of the inside the frame by having verticality. And the space becomes just a self-reference. Doesn't become anymore that reality that talks to us and becomes us, you know, the selfie, the culture of being protagonists constantly. And this is what's going to give, probably in 2-3 years, we're going to have television that are vertical, they're not anymore horizontal. And people are trained to see reality just in that little slice.
But maybe it's good, so that
Who
cinema
knows?
is radically different and people go to the
Exactly.
cinema
At
to
least
have
let's
something
go,
that they don't
and
have.
then let's go
outside.
for it.
But
That's what
once
let's,
a
let's,
journalist-
let's try to find that language, a new language.
But once a journalist told me this, because I shoot on film, with 60mm film, and yeah, once this journalist told me, but you know what it would be better for you to look more modern, that you start to make films with a cell phone and vertical, so that maybe you're more modern and you're not so old-fashioned as you are. And I said, but I don't want to be that. I never wanted. So.
Well, I before giving to the public, I will just sum up something that, you know, I think that everybody here agree that Sossai and Rosi is the evidence that the Italian movies and the Italian cinema is not going to die. Actually, is more alive than ever. So please, I need to hear that you agree with this sentence. Thank you very much. Please, the mic.
Buonasera, Rosi, lei prima ha detto la scelta del bianco e nero per me è una scelta narrativa e non estetica. Può gentilmente tornare un momento su questo concetto, brevemente sulla differenza, e una domanda, anche se posso, per l'altro amico Sossai. Lei racconta attraverso 3 personaggi sostanzialmente la provincia italiana. Che cosa ha in più la provincia agli occhi di un regista, di un narratore, rispetto invece ad un grande centro che può essere una qualunque città, per non pensare a una megalopoli come quella nella quale ci troviamo? Grazie.
Sì, no, come dicevo prima, devo ripetere, purtroppo però è quella la risposta, che per me è stata una scelta narrativa, nel senso che bianco e nero ti costringe a guardare anche le cose in maniera diversa. Io ho dovuto imparare a guardare il bianco e nero, aspettare la luce, aspettare il giusto tono di luce, aspettare le nuvole, perché quando giro in bianco e nero ho bisogno di una luce diffusa, non posso girare con la luce del sole, le ombre, perché diventerebbe troppo contrastato. E quindi c'è l'attesa della luce giusta, c'è l'attesa della storia che tu vuoi raccontare, c'è l'attesa di trovare quella, di capire e osservare in bianco e nero la realtà e quindi trasformare la realtà in qualcos'altro. E secondo me il bianco e nero, come dicevo prima, ti porta immediatamente a trasformare il presente in una sorta di archivio. Quindi tu filmi e a questo momento qui, che è il presente, diventa immediatamente una parte del passato.
Ma in italiano, in inglese?
Ah, scusa, I'm sorry. Please
Oh,
tell me.
anche in Veneto.
I mean, I think half the audience would like to hear it.
Yeah. So for me,
Sorry.
the idea is that this difference between city, like main cities and province, is something invented by main cities. Being born in the province for me is the whole universe. So I don't see I see difference between mountains, plains, and sea. The difference between megalopolis or because if you say province, you try to immediately to say, and I see it with the films I do, that no, it's a good film, it's from the province, you know, it's not relevant for Italy, you know. But I completely reject this label of province or not. For me, it doesn't exist, this difference. So I don't think there is more or less. It's just it is what it is. I see difference in the landscape, as I told you, between mountains, plain or sea, but I don't see difference between megalopolis or province. Also because there are some studies that say my region is slowly becoming like a huge metropolis. It's like it's vast as Los Angeles, and because of what is called urban development in urbanization. Urban development is like you have a lot of roads and houses are built on these roads. Nastro. Cioè sviluppo a nastro. And the urban development makes Veneto a huge megalopolis because there's no difference between one city and the other anymore, but it's all a huge city basically now. So we're also a metropolis.
In fact, the danger of that is that we have beautiful centro storico, and to arrive to the beautiful centro storico, you have to go through this immense craziness.
But the idea itself,
and then you arrive to this microcosm of the past, you know, which is the centro storico of the city. But to arrive there, a friend of mine was saying, you know, I love Italy, but to arrive to where I want to see, it's so ugly, everything is so ugly, everything is like so overwhelming. And to arrive to see that, I have to go through this craziness that what happens here. When you see that when you are on the train so much. In order to arrive to where you see all these spaces, and where are we? And then you arrive in this little jewel, which is the centro storico, you know, which is
but the fact itself that we call it historical center, it's the road to museification of a place. So it's not alive anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Infatti i centri storici sono diventati dei piccoli bazar.
I just wanted to say that I just cannot thank the Italian Cultural Institute enough. You know, it's every year there are directors that come for the New York Film Festival. This year we're so lucky we've had 4 Italian directors involved in the New York Film Festival, and 2 of them had the opportunity to meet here, which doesn't happen oftentimes, and I think that so many people have expressed their point of view about the New York Film Festival, that they wanted to see films, but unfortunately they couldn't get tickets, that they were already all sold out. So the very fact that we could find each other in this room and be able to have a conversation with two of the Italian directors, one, Gianfranco Rosi, who's made wonderful documentaries over the years, and I'm sure you've all seen so many of them, and this year it's Below the Clouds, which will be opening in cinemas all over the United States with Mubi after the January 26th, so you can look forward to seeing it in cinemas. And of course, Francesco Sossai's film is screening tonight at the New York Film Festival, and it's
Good to see that.
yeah, it's a beautiful film, and we hope that soon a distributor that will be announced for the film, so you'll also have a chance to see his. But I just wanted to take this opportunity where the room is full, people obviously enjoy cinema, and we're so grateful to the Italian directors and to Cinecittà for offering us this opportunity. And thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you.
Gianfranco, I have a question for you about, well, apropos death of cinema. A dilapidated old cinema is a place in your film that you return to several times, and there we see on the screen George Sanders and Ingrid Bergman and Rossellini, and the documentaries. This cinema that is somehow there in the center. Could you talk a little bit about finding it and then having the idea of giving us the past and, in a way, the future in there?
Yeah, because since the beginning I wanted to use the archival footage. I had did some research before, when I was writing somehow the idea of the film. Didn't know where the film was going. I was looking also for a lot of archival, and I love so much the Rossellini film, which is shot all in Naples, and I didn't know how to use that film of Rossellini, that element. What I knew, I think in Italy we have Pietro Marcello, who's a great director, Pietro, and he's another one that's still searching for languages and for, he's the one that told me to go to Naples and make this film. He's a master of using archival footage in his work. He always did it, and he used it in a very magistral way. And I felt I cannot use archival the way Pietro is using it, because I will never be able to reach that element of spontaneity that he has. So I did. Then I encountered this area where I was filming, where Titi is, where the boat is, the Syrian boat. I shot probably 60% of the film in that area, which is very near to Herculano, and that used to be the port of the old Pompeii. So that was the area where I was filming. And when I was passing by, I was in front of this cinema, which is a huge, huge cinema in the 60s, the 50s probably. It was also a theater, a cinema. And it was so painful to see this incredible structure completely dilapidated and abandoned. There are 3 movies, theater like that there. And then one day I found a way to go inside the theater to see this, it looks like an archaeological site. And I had the idea to using the archival not anymore as a counterpoint, contrapunto, can you say counterpoint, the narration, but as a space of narrative. So, as I was saying before, having the images coming from the memory, from this inexistent screen that still is living through the memory of the past, of what was potentially screened before there and shared by an audience that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, in Italy, I think they closed down 60% of theater, and the ones that are there, they survive because there's a huge, and all over Europe, there's a huge subsidy from the state and from European community, because otherwise all this theater would not, literally would not exist. People don't go to cinema anymore, so we still have an illusion that people go to the cinema. For me, what is the beauty of cinema, not so much to share the same experience with other people, because I love to be in a theater completely alone. So often that I go to a movie and I like 2 people, I'm sometimes alone there. I was able also to smoke a cigarette. Let me enjoy the cigarette in this theater like it used to be. And I thought there was alone. I enjoy so much. For me, what I love about cinema is like we are smaller than what we watch. And this is the beauty of cinema for me, that we are smaller than something we're watching there in this beautiful field, you know, this light things that project us, and we are 2 hours immersed in that story. That's what I love. And when we look at things in the phone, in the watch, in the TV things, there's so many elements of distraction. We're always bigger than what we watch. And that's what I think I'm gonna miss. Because of course, cinema will not die, will develop, will be something else, but it's a fact that theater are dying. And in Europe, in France, in England, they survive only because there may be 3-4 theaters that survive because there is an audience, and the rest are surviving because of huge something like newspaper. It's the same thing. In Italy, newspaper they survive on the no, yeah, but they survive because there is but who is we are paying taxpayers. They keep surviving all this newspaper. Otherwise, they would close completely down. We'll not be able to have the things that we owe them. And so the same is theater. So it's changing. I don't say that cinema is changing. But as you said before, we have to find a new language, or we're developing something else. But it's not anymore. It's an illusion that theater will survive. Will not. Unfortunately.
You don't believe it.
No.
You are.
I don't want to believe it.
Yeah, I don't want to believe it either, because for me, when I make a film, I make that film not for the piattaforma, and I try to have always screening. Now we do the Oscar campaign. I don't want to put my film in the Oscar sito that people watch it on stream. I don't want to stream my film. When I was the film, thank you to for the journalists, for the what Chita is doing, which is fantastic. We don't send the link. They go to and that movie. So I watched the link to for me. When I make my because I see the big screen and little seats and when I have to look is when I discover when I'm like this in this way it's like you discover a new reality. When I have to feel you said before hours you look like you're not invisible because there's a huge camera there and this camera separates me and the what is beautiful that moment transforms us. That is your film, that are filming, and this is what I love.
Can I comment about the? Can I just ask about this? Because I think Gianfranco is right. At the same time, I think that it's gonna change towards cinema and theater being their own way towards our way. Like today when I asked Paul Thomas Anderson, and he was on film and projected film, and it was such an experience. I think we're gonna go towards it's gonna be like opera going to cinema. It's gonna be like a huge spectacle.
But in fact, I think that in Italy now they sell the tickets in order to make people go €3.
No, which is gonna be the opposite.
That's what I said.
They say, okay,
€100, like you go to opera and you go to cinema, €100, 150, €1. But don't make people pay €3 because what they're gonna see for €3, they think it's like a cup of coffee. Why have to stand to watch something that spend €3?
It makes it the value of that.
The subsidized idea that we pay €3 bloody film that you spend 5 years to. I want people to spend €100 like you go to see an opera. I agree with €1 for 50 years. Yes.
Today I spend like $29, $30 to watch the film, and I'm happy because I know it.
Right. So if we have to go in that direction, let's go in the direction that this is a boom.
Culture phenomenon. It's not like La Dolce Vita that people were bringing chairs from home to sit in the scene. This is never going to happen.
So let's accept that and let's make
something.
That's why it's archaeological somehow. See?
Exactly.
Let's go like to Pompeii. You go
Yeah.
to Pompeii, you go to Ceruti, you go to Pompeii.
I wanted to address the elements. You had a lot of nice elements in your. But particularly the 911 calls.
I thought, no, I didn't say. Did you see or you didn't see? I didn't understand the beginning. Sorry, I was distracted.
I said you had a lot of nice elements to your film. It's the 911 calls I find quite interesting because after a while, my wife and I look at each other. That's the same person who just called. Was that a certain time period that took place? Because we recognize the same people making the same complaints every other call. It kind of sounded like it was one after another, like a sequence.
No, it took me 3 years to film.
Oh,
Yeah, I was the 911. You mean the fire department? Where they,
oh yes.
No, these are. I'm collecting stories there for 3 years basically, and but it sound like this. We were saying before the teatro umano, the human comedy, the place where they hold the fear and the complaint and of the Naples population basically. So, but even people that they supposed to call the police because of abuse or of the wife being abused by the husband, or the woman say I've been threatened by someone. They call the fire department because they don't feel judged. They don't feel like intimidated. I think that in all the world, the fire department is the only army that should exist. You know, imagine if the whole world, the only army exists, it would be the fire department and not the one with guns. That would be probably a wonderful way of interacting with people.
Well, for us, it kind of felt like it was all in a certain amount of time that you were there. I didn't know it took over years, but the way you planted the camera, steady in the same spot, in the same place, looking at the same elements,
And where
background. I always look at that, look at everything, not just the center where the action is, but I look like I enjoy your way of filming that because that's the way I like. Basically, like how you drive.
A strange thing that they say. The people they are very amazed at the wrong that when the camera moves,
Yes.
it's real. I say, why? The reality doesn't move. The camera. But the six, the fact that we're going around with the shoulder camera, it makes it more real. If you move around, you zoom in, you zoom out. But then in that way, who is filming becomes the protagonist and judgmental, because you move the camera in a way that you interact with the thing. For me, I like to disappear the camera. When you do a frame and boom, the camera is there and you let things happen in front of the camera, you kind of let the audience become the observer and not anymore the camera person that is there filming. So in that way, I like to disappear. I don't want to think that I am filming, but to give an idea that is the audience watching that. So creating the point of view, your point of view becomes the point of view of the audience. So it becomes like the studio on the other side.
Yeah, please.
Hello, hi. My name is Francesca, and I have a question for Francesco. You mentioned earlier how it was easy to make sure the actors develop a friendship. And as an actor myself, and I was wondering what, in your opinion, what's the best way to make sure, allow for actors to develop a genuine connection before starting a project, whether it's a film, theater, show. Just, again, you touched on that already, but I was curious to know more about your experience and what you observed and what's like, what you would repeat and what you would avoid moving forward. And of course, if Gianfranco has also opinions about this, I'm more than happy to hear from you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, what I like about working with actors is also the thing that scares me the most, because I don't know how to do it. So that's my starting point, because I truly don't know how to do it. So I don't a method, but my method, my only method is I know what I'm looking for, and I am at their complete disposal. So I'm there for them, whatever they feel, and I'm just there for them. What I do is that I explain them that characters don't exist, and touch what they read on the paper. So also I write my script without adjectives, because adjectives are already something that leads you to the way that at some point the actors start to say, but you say when you want to, I don't know, pity for you or whatever, but your is always positive. You know, you're always doing something. And what I try to tell them is that they have to have a process, and they don't have to have a character like something they have to reach, because it doesn't exist. And to create this bond between them, that's the unpredictable part. But what I know is that what I try to do with them is to create memories that they can do. So I allow them, I made a lot of improvisation during rehearsing about moments they lived together, so that they could, when they were shooting the film, remember those moments they had together. It can be something very trivial, something small, but they have some memories, some collective memories they can grasp on, which is friendship. And friendship, for me, also works in another way, is that with friendship, you have a peculiar language. So for us was to create a common language they have. And the language they have, I found out, is that is of the human, you know? And when you have and when we're together, and he plays his role in friendship, and we're like a duo. So what I created was that between them, they have their role, and if you see the scene when they wake, and so they have role, and hangover the next day, it's a moment that no one is watching them for the first time, and they're very sincere between each other, and they're silent. They don't say anything. They just say hi, hello, ciao, and they drink coffee, because no one is watching them for the first time in the film, and so they don't have to play out their friendship, but they just, but I don't know how to do it, so I go there, and the night before shooting, I'm like, oh God, tomorrow they're gonna realize I'm not able to direct actors, how can I do it? And then I go there and I try, let's say.
And for me, it's even more amazed because I'm dealing with people that are immersed in their own life. So I have to grab a moment of their reality. I'm able to do that because I spend so much time with them. They have a kind of routine. You know that in a certain moment, a certain way, that's what happens. But that's why I like to have a camera that is fixed. And with a wide lens that covers a lot of space and let things happening around me. I never move until something happened there that has a beginning. And that's why for me it's important to listen the sound. I do everything at home, filming, sound, and choosing the camera, distance, things. And I say very little things. So when the person is alone, the only thing that they ask is so I don't ask questions. So if they have to say something, it would be like they're alone in this room and talk to themselves. This is my only things that I say, not just video. I don't think you're alone. And then there is this moment of intimacy that comes out of trust. This comes out and you can build this it's very important to build trust. You build trust with the people you're filming. Without that, there's no way you can put the camera. You build trust with the audience. You build trust with your producer, allows you to stay 3 years there. And so it's a matter of creating that element, which is very, very important. And that affinity, that sense of belonging, trust each other. I have to trust them, they have to trust me. And from there, it's happening, which because never know what's going to happen. As I put the camera, as I was saying before, the camera changed everything. And that's why for me it's very painful. For me, it is my first and my last film. It's very painful to be 3 years after a story that you never know where it's going to take you, to follow someone you met by chance. You saw a bike coming towards you, you turn and say, who is he? And you turn back with the camera, and you stop the person, you introduce yourself as a filmmaker who is in Syria. And then that moment becomes a bonding, and then he takes me to his house. And then I say, well, I'm making a film here. And then he said, well, okay, I'm interested. Then after 6 months, you go back to look for that person. And the fact that I went back to film him, it changed everything. So it was true, you come to film, and then it all got complete. And then you start a relationship by day, you don't know anything about his life. You start entering his life. It's so strong, it's absurd. That's why I'm happy when there is a bad light, I cannot feel, because there's enormous anxiety for me. When I put down the camera, I never know what's happening, and sometimes it's so strong, it's so beautiful, and you never thought about the moment that develops in something, that a word, a sentence, an interaction that is happening there. You just put the camera there and you wait that something in front and develop. And sometimes reality, or actually often reality, is so strong. I always say in my film, when I realize when we do the subtitle of the film, because that's the only moment I have to read the whole written part. When I edit, I don't realize it so much. But when you start writing down for the subtitle, you start reading, you say, this is like a beautiful script, you know, but no writer could have written that, you know, because it's so strong. What Maria says, I will never be able to write. Nobody will ever write. What the phone call of the Abud with the thing, how can you write? The reaction of the prosecutor when he goes in this room for the first time and he sees that this room is being dilapidated. I cannot tell him say this or say that. I just hope that he's there and something strong comes, you know. But it's always an opportunity because I never know what's going to happen. But I know that when things happen, that's why I do this, you know. It's like that's why, because I was never able to write that. I would have never be able to write in a room that dialogue or that discovering that room or discovering that reality. And that's what made me do what I do, because there's always an incredible surprise for me.
So you think we have time for a last question? Because
Hi. I'm very curious about the linguistic elements of the different regions of Italy. So we're talking about Italian film, but really it's Sicilian film, it's Milanese film, it's Pulian film. All of these different dialects and languages, I mean, Italy has only been united for what, 165 years? So you have many. So is that a challenge for you? That's my question.
very interesting.
It's an unresolved question of the Italian cinema. But what I know is that I'm very passionate about Italian films from the 60s and 70s, the Commedia all'Italiana. And what is there, it's amazing. There is a film called The Great War by Mario Monicelli, and everyone in that film speaks its own dialect. And it's amazing because they come from all parts of Italy, from south, north, center, and they all speak their dialect. They didn't need subtitles, and now they all try to force us to put subtitles on the dialect, and I refuse that every time.
I've seen that, where you're hearing the dialect,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at standard Italian.
For me now, it's more to find a sort of imagery Venetian language. So, because it's even more complicated than what you say. For instance, in my valley, where I come from the Dolomites, in my town we speak one dialect. Kilometer there is another town, and they have different words. Okay, so if you're truthful to that, it's almost impossible to write a film, because you would have to change every kilometer the language they speak. And I found beginning did the first film and I tried to have that, but it's so complicated, then the effort, it's too big for the result that you get. And lately I found out something incredible, that Federico Fellini in his Casanova film, he asked a Venetian poet called Andrea Zanzotto, and he's my favorite poet, and he asked him to create a sort of new Venetian language based on the. I would like to try, like to go in that direction, to have more of a, to treat language as a sound. So you don't have to understand all the words, but you can allow yourself to feel a sound, and you get the meaning of words through the sound. So, but it's an unresolved question for Italian cinema. But as I said, and I finished, back in the days, we accepted that. Now, most of them, they try to speak Italian, but no one speaks Italian in Italy. No one speaks Italian.
I don't. For me, I have no identity. I was born in. I don't belong. I went to Italy when I was 17 for the first time. I was born in Africa. I lived here, and then I was in the first time when I was doing medicine at school in Pisa. I normally in Pisa for 2 years, and around New York. I did NYU, and New York. Of where I belong, you know, because my ideal city when I arrived here when I was 21, because I never felt I'm Italian, and that's why I feel very comfortable to be anywhere. I would love that someone take me with a plane. I don't know where I am, put me in a space. I don't understand the language. I didn't make a film that I don't even know where I am. I love that. To be able to.
It's a nice experiment.
Yeah, I don't know where. I did my first film in India. I did another film in the States, which was like around the deserts of the became below after 5 years became below sea level. I went to Mexico. I did a film about Sicaro, and then I went to Rome. And for me, Rome was like again another place I didn't know. The Raccordo Anulare in Rome was like being in a place in the space to me. Like, L'Anello di Saturno, the Saturn ring, I was there. I was imagining space, like out of space. And now I can relate. And I don't like to feel that, to identify in a place. And then I went to Middle East. I was in Seoul for 5 years. And I tried to make a movie without understanding anything. I put the camera down, people talk, and I don't understand anything. When I met the Japanese in that villa, for me it was like, I love to be in a place where I don't understand what they say. When I was filming the professor talking to the students, I just was filming not understanding anything. And then I discovered he's talking about the grain, and that the Roma used to take the grain. So I have the story of the grain. So everything started to have a sense, even in this not understanding. When I was filming in Middle East, in Syria, in Iraq, in Kurdistan, I filmed for like 2 years, 3 years without understanding what I was filming. The theater, I don't know if you saw Notturno, the theater piece I'm filming without understanding. Then suddenly you go on the editing, there is someone in the subtitle, makes sense with it. So and I also like this of not. I love to be in place where I don't understand. The place around me. I like that very much, and I think because sometimes it's very heavy when you're in Rome and you keep hearing people putting straight the element of it's been like great. I love the place where in Japan where people around you everything seems so nice. I have a friend of mine from Russia that he came to Italy and he didn't want to learn Italian. And the moment he started learning Italian, he left. I hate Italy. I hate Italians. I don't understand them. They're like the other. He left Italy. And he said, the most beautiful thing was like sitting in a cafe, everybody was talking, said, what a beautiful conversation we're gonna have. No banality, they talk about stupidity and things. And the moment he started understanding that everything was like ephemeral, he just left and then he goes to somewhere else and a place where you don't understand it. So also, I like to film in it, understand. Film again with the Japanese in Naples. Exactly, don't know what they're saying, and then at the end, I did the right things to put the camera there because there's an intuition that you develop. So the thing about the imaginary language, it's great, it's a beautiful thing. When you don't imaginary, you create your own world.
Well, with this bubble tower fascination, I think we can close our very interesting talk. So I want to thank once again Gianfranco and Francesco, and of course again Sally Fisher, all of you. I'm very happy to see that we were attentive, and now we can enjoy Italian food and wine to our buffet. Thank you so much for being here.